1. Intellectual superpowers, what they are, and how to develop them. You have probably watched science fiction films in which superheroes do incredible things. They release a web from the wrist and jump from one skyscraper to another, fly high in the clouds, read minds, become invisible. Of course, this is all fantastic, and such abilities cannot be found. But you can think about the development of intellectual superpowers. Everyone can do it, you just have to want to. How to master speed reading, excellent memory, fast counting, deductive thinking. Why do we need these abilities, and do you need to be a genius from birth to have them? Let's look at these questions later. How to develop intellectual abilities. All of the above is called supernatural mental abilities. Many believe that the average person cannot master them. But that's completely wrong. The intellectual abilities of the mind can be developed by any person, for this it is not necessary to be a genius. First of all, this requires a desire and, of course, it is necessary to make certain efforts. And everyone has the ability to intellectual activity. Let's see why such abilities are needed. Speed reading. The ability to read quickly, capturing the main essence and important details, allows a person to quickly master a large amount of new material. It will be useful at school, at the institute, and in professional activities. Super memory. The more and better we remember, the more knowledge is stored in our head. Accordingly, the better we can show ourselves in conversations, at work. The ability to count quickly in the mind. In everyday life, we often count, when planning a family budget, checking wages, paying loans, utility bills. Imagine how great it is to do without a calculator and instantly get the right result. Deductive thinking. For police officers, detectives, investigators, the ability to think deductively helps directly in their work. They quickly solve crimes by comparing and linking facts. For an ordinary person, deduction will help to quickly master any knowledge, make the right decisions, think through their actions, understand the intentions of people and not fall for their tricks. How to develop intellectual cognitive abilities. First of all, you should think about whether you spend your free time correctly. Very often, people spend too much time on social networks, watching the news and useless programs on TV. Developed intelligence is a prerequisite for success in any business. Developed intelligence is a prerequisite for success in any business. What is intelligence? This word comes from the Latin intellectus, which means understanding, cognition. But this interpretation is far from exhausting the essence of the concept of intelligence. Surprisingly, scientists have not yet come to a single answer to the question of what intelligence is. This property of the human brain is far from being fully understood. Sometimes it is believed that intelligence is thinking. But this is too narrow an understanding of intelligence. A more common view of intelligence is that it is not limited to thinking alone, but includes all of a person's functions of perceiving and knowing the world. That is, the concept of intelligence can include our sensations, emotions, imagination, and intuition. Intelligence is all a variety of ways in which a person knows reality, and not only knows, but also changes this reality, drawing conclusions from his process of cognition and making certain decisions on their basis. Needless to say, only a person with a developed intellect will be able to correctly understand what is happening, draw the right conclusions and make the most effective decisions on their basis. But each of us literally at every moment of life has to evaluate what is happening around us, draw conclusions and make decisions. This is how our life is arranged, that we are forced to constantly navigate what is happening and look for the best ways of action. This is the process of life. While we live, we must solve various life problems. So, we have to think, make decisions and act. There's no other way. That is why people who are not engaged in mental work and for this reason believe that they do not need to develop intelligence are greatly mistaken. Everyone should strive for a developed intellect in all ways, and people of mental and physical labor, and those who have already retired. After all, developed mental abilities are necessary not only for scientific discoveries and the creation of spaceships. They are also required in order to build good relationships with other people, to successfully engage in housekeeping, to realize their small and big dreams, and in general to succeed in any business, regardless of its importance and scale. Even to cook yourself a healthy breakfast, it takes intelligence. You need to know which products are harmful to you and which are useful, that is, to have the necessary information and be able to analyze it. You should be aware of the consequences of eating certain products. You must consciously and with understanding treat yourself and your health. You need to understand how to properly prepare the necessary products and in what combination to use them. All this together is intellectual work. So, we conclude. Successful intellectual work involves the ability to perceive and assimilate as much necessary information as possible, the ability to correctly understand this information, the ability to analyze this information and draw the right conclusions, the ability to make the best decision based on available information. All the decisions we make in life are based on the information we have. But if the information is insufficient, or it is misinterpreted by us, we make the wrong decision. It takes a developed intellect to assimilate and understand a sufficient amount of information, draw the right conclusions based on it and make the best decision. That is why only a person with a developed intellect can achieve success. The higher the intelligence, the lower the probability of errors, the greater the chance of the best solutions. If you want to make as few mistakes as possible, you want to always and in everything be successful, develop intelligence. It is also interesting that people with developed intelligence usually have a well-developed intuition, which, as we know, can also be attributed to intellectual abilities. This means that they are able to make the right, best decisions even in situations where they do not have enough information to assess what is happening and logical conclusions. A developed intellect suggests the right decisions in a variety of ways, and even through the voice of the subconscious. Because being a smart person doesn't just mean having a well-developed logic. This means being intelligible and quick-witted, and also capable of instant insights bypassing logical analysis, to the fullest perception and accurate understanding of what is happening even in complex, incomprehensible, and confusing situations. There is another argument in favor of the development of intelligence. Practice shows that people with developed intelligence live much longer than those who do not develop and do not use their mental abilities properly. Among scientists there are much more centenarians than among representatives of other activities. Moreover, if a person has been actively engaged in intellectual work all his life, then the level of his intelligence does not decrease even in old age. Age-related changes in the brain simply do not appear or appear much later than in other people. Development of mental abilities in adults, exercises and recommendations. Development of intelligence, effective ways for every day. Environment. Measure your IQ on Wednesday, let the brain trainer be intelligence tests to assess IQ. After all, they can be performed not only to measure the level of their mental development and intelligence quotient, but also for the purposes of intellectual training. But these tests are usually solved within a set time. Therefore, you first need to see how much time you are allocated to solve the battery of the proposed tasks. Then mark the time and proceed to the test. By the way, by timing, you thereby set yourself a certain bar for the future. Save a record indicating the time you met so that next time you have the opportunity to compare old results with new ones and track your progress. What are the types of intelligence? In the matter of mental abilities, it should be noted that everyone has their own intelligence, since there are a number of its varieties. By the way, they can be distinguished from childhood by the manner of communication, the interests of the child, his hobbies, reflections, reasoning. Analytic. The ability to analyze, compare information, divide it into logical blocks, identify the relationship. Logical. A person is capable of reasoning, thinking and analysis without violating formal logic. This type has the ability to draw logical, correct conclusions in the appropriate sequence. Critical. Receiving information, a person subjects it to criticism, evaluation, and easily weeds out everything superfluous, unnecessary, wrong. This is how a natural, pure opinion is formed. Deductive. A person fishes out separate, necessary information from the total volume, flow, and can perfectly formulate it. This type is able to generalize, find patterns in the interconnection of different information and group into one single. Prognostic. Talent to plan, warn, shape future events in your mind and at the same time keep in mind various options for solving a particular problem. Abstract thinking. A person can delve into the most complex abstract processes, more often it concerns mathematical, philosophical problems. These are brilliant personalities who are able to keep in their head the most complex mathematical formulas and processes. They can quickly count the addition, multiplication, and division of billions in a matter of seconds. Imaginative thinking. A person is able to compare things of different importance from different sciences, quickly bring them to a common denominator. People are able to create, formulate all sorts of metaphors, decipher complex ideas and reduce them to a simplified level for easier understanding. Ability to concentrate. This point rather refers to those who have great will and discipline, although without intelligence it would hardly be possible. The human mind also has certain properties. The logic of architecture. Everyone has a different degree of orderliness of his thinking. Someone thinks soberly, all thoughts are in order, and others have a chaotic, incoherent, confused mind. The breadth, the depth of the human mind, the level of intelligence of a person depends on this moment. If he is able to grasp the question, the task, the object of thinking more broadly and deeper, then he is more intelligent. The speed of performing mental operations. Here, perhaps, everything is clear. The faster a person thinks, the higher his speed of thinking. Autonomy of thinking. Some people can perfectly think, regardless of the effects of external interference, factors. They are always calm, especially at the moment when you need to make the right decision, create an idea and bring it to life. Great RAM, it's about our memory. The better it is, the more information we can hold in our heads and use it at the right time. People with a good memory can read poems by heart, retell books, multiply billions in their heads, divide them, formulate formulas. What factors affect a person's mental abilities? In different people, the level of intelligence can vary significantly. Among us there are intellectuals, dullards, people with average abilities and those who are called mentally retarded. But why are people so different mentally? Various studies have shown that the formation of human mental abilities is influenced primarily by a genetic factor. Parenting, environmental influences, and occasional external influences play a much smaller role. However, the external environment also has a certain importance for the formation of intelligence. These are factors such as the standard of living of the family, the level of education of parents, the nature of upbringing, the availability of school education for children. In American studies, students of good urban schools turned out to be more intellectual than students of modest rural schools. Studies have even established the influence of such individual factors as the annual income of the family, the size of the house and its value, the relationship between parents, etc. The role of nutrition cannot be ruled out. The brain is a fairly voracious structure, and a lack of nutrients can lead to a decrease in its ability to process information. Exercises for the development of intelligence in primary school students. Applique: prepare several shapes and parts cut out of paper, and invite the child to assemble a figure or an unusual picture from them. Associations: invite your child to make one coherent sentence from 3 different words. Words can be completely different, the less they are connected, the more interesting the game. For example, rain, TV, girl, car, pedestrian crossing, music, phone, dad, school principal. Invent a new fairy tale, invite the child to change the end of familiar fairy tales and compose his own version. For example, Kolobok did not sit on the fox's tongue, but rolled on and met. Find all the objects, show the child several pictures with a contour image of objects superimposed on each other. He must correctly indicate all the items. See what it looks like. Invisible. Invite your child to find another word in one word by rearranging letters, for example. 1. Find invisible animals by swapping the letters in the words, power, salt, can, peony. Correct answers: fox, moose, wild boar, pony. 2. Find an invisible tree in the word, pump. The correct answer is pine. 3. Find invisible clothes in the word, lapot. The correct answer is a coat. Confusion: come up with a sentence and replace one word in it so that it does not fit the meaning at all. Invite your child to look for the lost word. For example, Victor was basking in the sun, lying on the asphalt, in fact, on the sand. It was hot outside, so Tanya wore a coat, actually a dress. Pairs of words: pick up 8 to 10 pairs of words related to each other in meaning. The child needs to read these pairs of words and memorize them. Then you read the first word from each bundle, and the child names the second from memory. For example, wood, forest, cat, kitten, music, piano, car, petrol. How to develop intelligence in a child. It is necessary to remember about the features of the development of children's intelligence. Smartem specialists spoke about how productive it is to deal with the issues of additional education of children, and gave recommendations on the development of the child's mental abilities. What nuances need to be taken into account and how to choose a suitable lesson for children, taking into account its capabilities and prospects in the future. To decide on the choice of the best activity for the child, ask yourself a few questions. What goal do you pursue when sending a child to a school of additional education or a circle? Versatile intellectual development, sports achievements, or the development of creativity? Do your interests coincide with the interests of the child? What results do you expect from classes and after what period? How ready is the child for heavy physical or psychological stress? It is extremely difficult to predict in which area the child will be able to prove himself best and succeed. Parents enroll their children in several classes and expect from each big result. But first, it is better to give the child the opportunity to prepare, to develop the skill of concentration, perseverance, improve memory. Mental arithmetic will help in this. Teachers of the Mental Academy. Smartem are engaged with children aged 5 to 16 years, and in each of them they see a potential genius. Why is mental arithmetic the best way to develop a child's IQ? There are several reasons for this. Mental arithmetic classes are aimed at the uniform development of the left and right hemispheres of the brain. A high level of development of both hemispheres, for example, as in Einstein, is considered a sign of genius and the key to success. Interesting and diverse lessons of mental arithmetic can captivate any child, thereby strengthening his interest in knowledge and creativity. The results of mental arithmetic classes are photographic memory, increased concentration of attention and the ability to count orally. After 2 to 3 months of regular attendance at classes, children experience an increase in school performance. The child quickly completes lessons, has time to attend additional interesting circles and courses. The Academy of Mental Arithmetic Smartum hopes that the recommendations for the development of the child's mental abilities were useful to you. Smartum specialists are confident that each student has great potential, and are ready to help him become confident in his abilities and successful in the future. Sign up for your first free lesson. Ways to increase intelligence. How to increase intelligence without resorting to pills. The main advice is to throw aside laziness and start paying more attention to yourself. This is not easy to do, your strong desire to develop your erudition is enough. Reading books. It is books that stimulate the active work of the brain. No wonder they say that reading is a good prevention of Alzheimer's disease in old age. Let your reading be diverse, read the classics, journalism, scientific journals, you can always support the conversation on any topic. Choose well-known authors. Books that increase intelligence are those that make you think and reason. What books should I read first? We recommend that you familiarize yourself with Russian classics, popular novels, and newfangled detective stories will wait. Below is a list of books that contribute to the development of intelligence. Intellect Training, Rodionova Anna, Brain at 100%, Kyniakina Olga. Fundamentals of Mechanical Memorization by Zach Belfour, Six Hats of Thought, by Edward D. Bone. Develop Intelligence, Philip Carter. Learning Foreign Languages. This is not only useful for the development of memory and intelligence, but also very interesting. Firstly, abroad you will be able to find a common language with the locals. Secondly, it will open up new opportunities for you in your professional field. A foreign language will definitely come in handy. Brain puzzles. Spend more time on educational games, connect your child to them. Riddles, puzzles, crossword puzzles, board games, chess, checkers, help well. They not only train the brain, but also develop perseverance, patience, and concentration. Athletics. During sports, the brain receives oxygen, which is so necessary for its normal functioning. The risk of developing affective syndrome is reduced, a person becomes calm, more reasonable, which has a beneficial effect on his desire for knowledge. During sports, the brain produces special cells responsible for mental abilities. Sport is a great helper in your intellectual endeavors. Giving up bad habits. Increased intelligence does not threaten you if you have bad habits. Smoking and alcohol, not to mention the more severe forms of addiction. Regular intake of alcohol and nicotine into the blood reduces the production of mental abilities. Unfortunately, the consequences of this process are irreversible. Be curious. Try to learn something new every day. For example, watch a new movie or listen to a new artist. Good music, especially classical music, has a good effect on cerebral circulation. Try to master the exact sciences, even if they in school caused you rejection. Expand your social circle. Let as many intelligent and educated people as possible appear in your environment. This will allow you to become smarter yourself, plus it is an excellent motivation for learning new areas of science. With interesting people, there is always something to discuss, and, as you know, truth is born in an argument. And it will not be superfluous for you to gain such experience. In the process of communication on controversial issues, intelligence develops well. And most importantly, give up the idea that your intelligence is not amenable to training. Everything is in your hands and in your head. The more involved you are in the process of developing your intellectual abilities, the more you will like it. It's like with a habit, first you work on its formation for 21 days, then it works for you. And, of course, remember about healthy sleep and proper varied nutrition. The brain, like your physical shell, needs training. Top 10 recommendations on how to increase the level of IQ. Since the IQ is directly related to the activity of the brain, you should think about how to increase the efficiency of its work. Use the following tips. Lead a healthy lifestyle. In order to think clearly, think better and faster, master the necessary amount of information and at the same time remain in good shape, you should follow the elementary rules: eat balanced, do not overeat, do not starve, do not smoke, do not get involved in alcohol, spend more time in the air, be active, move more, play sports or sparing physical education. Balance work with rest. The brain, like the body, must rest. If you improve your intellect all day long, your head can't stand it first. Doctors advise choosing the number of hours for sleep that the brain needs for full recovery. A reasonable balance between rest and work will allow you to better perceive everything that you want to learn for your development. Read regularly. Reading is one of the best ways to wake up brain cells. It develops imagination, speech, enriches vocabulary, expands horizons, increases the educational level. This is generally a unique function. It allows the head to simultaneously work and rest, switching the brain to another type of activity. Find intellectual forms of entertainment for yourself. Physical activities can be successfully alternated with intellectual ones. Educational games, crossword puzzles, educational quests, tasks for logic and imagination, all this is recommended not only for the younger generation, but also for adults as a prevention of strokes, dementia, and other diseases associated with a weakening of intelligence. One of the useful types of recreation can be a visit to lecture halls, intellectual clubs, interactive museums, and even libraries, which today are equipped with modern technology and hold many interesting events. Learn foreign languages. This is not just a way to learn to understand other people, but also a great opportunity to learn a different culture, traditions, get acquainted with the original texts of books, watch the best films and performances, find new friends by interests. In addition, language develops memory, which means that it activates brain activity, which helps to improve intelligence. Watch educational programs and movies. This is one of the best options to expand your horizons. Documentaries, travel shows, educational TV shows or scientific films will allow you to go beyond the usual and often rather narrow framework of your own interests. Try to do the exact sciences. Academic intellectuals will confirm that the boundaries between the exact sciences and the humanities are often very blurred. It is no coincidence, for example, that mathematics is called the music of the mind. Both children and adults for intellectual development are often recommended to solve entertaining tasks. An acquaintance with miracles and discoveries in other sciences is incredibly enriching to the human mind. Change established habits. A monotonous way of life, otherwise called routine, greatly inhibits development. Change your daily routine. Change the route when you go to work. Dedicate the weekend to something unusual for you. Make a cultural and educational plan for the week. Plan a vacation trip with meaning, for example, visit all the castles of Austria, go around all the Orthodox churches of the Crimea and learn their history, go on a culinary tour of Italy and learn how to cook Italian dishes. Make a rating of the best books for the mind and heart and gradually read them. Learn new skills. Ask about the intricacies of other professions, master a different specialty, apply your experience to expand your own sphere of employment. If you have always been interested in history, sign up for an archaeological expedition, sing well, learn to dance well, take guitar lessons, go to a course of mastering a craft. New experience is always new knowledge. And the opportunity to learn is the first step to increasing the level of intelligence. Train your brain on IQ tests. On the internet in the public domain there are many different intellectual tests. Set yourself the task of going through them as much as possible. How to increase the level of intelligence, go from simple to complex. If something is not given the first 2 time, do not be afraid to go back, use the auxiliary literature, scientific advice, reference books. And keep in mind that in self-development, a high result is not always important. The process itself carries with it no less, and sometimes a greater intellectual charge. Secrets of intelligence development. Before you start developing your intellect, you need to learn one rule: classes should be comprehensive, regular. An example is sports. To improve your health, you need to give up bad habits, add physical activity, for example, by buying a subscription to the gym or swimming pool. The same happens with the development of emotional intelligence and mental abilities. No need to think that rare reading or problem solving will be enough for development. Complex actions are needed, implying the presence of theory and practice. Many people understand the importance of developing mental abilities. However, nothing is being done in this direction. The reason for all this is laziness, unwillingness to change habits and leave the comfort zone. In addition, most people want to find easy ways to solve problems, and not strain, working on themselves. It is this feature of human nature that encourages you to buy advertised products or simulators for weight loss. To achieve the goal, you need effort, discipline, willpower. Only with the help of these qualities can you force yourself to regularly allocate time for the development of the mind. How do you explain the composition of the number to children? Knowledge of the composition of numbers is the foundation on which further training in mathematics will be built. It is necessary to teach the child to cope with such tasks, and then in school it will be much easier for him to master addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Find the extra game, a word, a figure, an object. Puzzles and games to find unnecessary objects, words, and shapes allow you to train the skills of logic and attention. It is necessary to start developing these skills from early childhood. Invite your child to solve the problems that we have prepared for you in practice. Find a pattern. Regularity is regular stable relationships in the quantities, properties, and phenomena of objects. In a mathematical regularity, it is necessary to find an algorithm according to which in a chain of numbers their repetition, change, or replacement occurs in accordance with the established rule. Development of intellectual abilities of school children. From elementary school, it is imperative for boys and girls to develop critical and logical thinking, detailed information with a specific solution. At the age of 6 to 10 years, a person's mindset is formed, analytical, visual, figurative, or mixed. Already in primary school, children should actively develop working memory, the ability to keep in mind several intermediate facts, decisions, conclusions, skills of ordering thoughts and judgments, strive to build the correct architecture of thinking, the ability to draw conclusions from the received arrays of information, gradually increase the speed of analytical and other operations. To better understand how to develop intelligence in a child, how to be able to help him improve mental abilities, it is necessary to realize only comprehensive work on improving intellectual abilities in the younger school age, logic, creativity, erudition, emotional, social and practical intelligence, will form a successful personality. A pronounced inclination to analytical thinking does not cancel creative impulses, they only hide behind logic, but they can and should be developed in order to bring up a harmonious personality. It is necessary to increase your intellectual abilities not only at the computer or in another relatively passive version, but also through sports. The undisputed leaders are chess, karate, any team game sports, general physical training and athletics are also useful. Exercises for the development of intellectual and creative abilities in younger school children. In the first grades, children are not yet learning mathematics, they are just beginning to introduce them to the arithmetic course. However, it is already possible to solve simple problems for finding patterns and other logic tasks with them. IMAGE001 Nature itself helps. The child's sense of rivalry is exacerbated and arbitrary attention and conscious interest in analytical activity are formed. To mathematical and logical problems you can safely add tasks for spatial thinking, figures and their sweeps, reflections, etc. Chess, perfectly develop intelligence and motivate the ability to surpass the opponent in flexibility and ingenuity of mind, are able to teach the game of chess at a decent level even to a beginner and significantly increase interest in this game. Various puzzles for verbal logical, visual figurative and abstract logical thinking, creativity, ingenuity, including tasks for truth and lies. Algorithms, puzzles with matches and much more. A comprehensive training program is built in such a way that the level of complexity in each category of tasks gradually increases. Where to start? As a result of the course for the development of logical thinking and intelligence, a 10-12-year-old child will not only be able to solve such complex problems that many adults may not be able to do, but also in many aspects of intellectual development will be 2 heads higher than his less purposeful peers. High school and adolescence. From the age of 10 to 12, in classes for the development of intelligence, you can focus on rivalry or on an entertaining and game form of pastime with benefits for the mind and for mood. Perhaps the best options for any parent to answer the question of how to develop intelligence in a student. Various Olympiads, real and game, at school and at home between friends, entertaining competitions for solving logical problems, family, friendly and official chess tournaments, joint Sudoku solution, solving crossword puzzles, guessing puzzles, logical riddles, tasks and puzzles on logic and ingenuity and much more. Intelligence is a very broad concept that includes not only the totality of available knowledge, but also the ability to apply them to achieve one's own goals, the ability to think and make decisions. Why you need to develop intelligence? Unfortunately, the modern world is pushing us not to develop intelligence, but to degradation, television programs, an outdated education system and, finally, routine work that does not require any intervention of the mind. Getting up from behind the university desk, most people stop growing and developing, not realizing the full value of the constant development of intelligence and the expansion of horizons. How the development of intelligence affects a person. First of all, you will begin to see opportunities. Opportunities that were not noticed before, being in the zone of personal comfort, and not thinking about improving your life and the world around you. You will become better able to cope with stressful situations, because developed intelligence is aimed at the most rational action and achieving a specific result, and anxieties, stresses, and other meaningless emotions are a complete waste of time. In addition, you will become more collected and attentive, because trained brain is able to make the right decisions faster, which means that you are less likely to get into an unpleasant situation or miss something important. How to develop intelligence? It is necessary to work on the development of intelligence in a complex, to gain new knowledge, make the brain look for answers, work on the concentration of attention, improve memory and the ability to think creatively and rationally. Simple mathematical calculations. The first thing to start with is to give the brain a little more load than usual. The most suitable in this case, according to scientists, is simple mathematical calculations performed continuously, with small numbers. For example, try counting the following examples in 15 seconds. 52 plus 33 equals 13x4 equals 32, 8 equals 16 to 7 equals 26 plus 77 equals. Simple, isn't it? However, at the moment of intensive calculations, your brain, which figuratively speaking during the day is in a state of walking switch to running. Such work with small numbers in a few weeks will make you noticeably smarter. However, training should be regular. The most convenient and modern option is to install the application on your smartphone, where you are given simple examples, and your task is to solve them as quickly as possible. 10 minutes of such training a day is enough to start with. Reading books. As you have read earlier, for the development of intelligence it is important not only to learn to think, but also to receive new information. The best way to get information is definitely books. But if you set out to develop intelligence, then fiction will not suit you. There are several options: reading literature on your specialty, for advanced training, scientific publications that will make you ask questions, and gain new knowledge about the world around you, psychology of interpersonal interaction, i.e. the ability to build relationships with people, is one of the most important qualities of the 21st century, and there is no limit to perfection in this direction. By the way, it is not necessary to plunge into reading, it is enough to find only a few hours a week, and then you will read about 2 books a month, which in a year will turn into 24, and turn your usual worldview upside down. Script change. The life of many people is a series of habitual actions that can be repeated for years, causing the brain to fall more and more into sleep mode. In order to break this vicious circle, and how to move your brains, your task is to change your usual daily scenarios. It's about making the morning richer and more vigorous, breakfast is more useful, the day is more productive, work, more efficiently, fill every day with new impressions, and life, with bright colors. How do I do this? This is where you need to think carefully, look inside yourself and find answers. In the end, to change life for the better is not a difficult occupation, there would be a desire. A new skill. For the development of intelligence, it is very important to use the areas of the brain that are used the least, which means that you need to do something that you have never done. That's when it's time to remember your childhood sorts, what you'd like to learn, but you didn't dare. Maybe you've been dreaming of learning to play the guitar, so get started. Rollerblading or skating, go for it. Master a musical instrument, drawing, understand the structure of the car, everything is in your hands. The point is that any new undertaking will give the brain an unprecedented surge. Playing chess. It is known that chess is one of the most difficult games in the world, which means that it is the biggest training of your intellect. Chess gives such a good shake-up of thinking that even 1 game a week will be enough to keep the brain in good shape. If you get more, then let there be more. Make it a rule to play at least 1 game of chess a week, and you will get a huge brain training. By the way, if you think that you have no one to play with, today on the internet there are dozens of sites for playing chess with live players, where you can easily choose an opponent by level. Foreign language. The opportunity to use undeveloped areas of the brain will give you the study of a foreign language. This is a truly unique way of developing intelligence, because learning a language is a grammar, and new words, and understanding the features of sentence construction, etc. Such an integrated approach provides a comprehensive development of both the intellect and the personality as a whole, since knowledge of another language in addition to the native one opens up many opportunities for a person. Biography. A very interesting way to develop intelligence is to study the biographies of successful people, scientists, businessmen, athletes. Biographies of people who have achieved high goals in life help to understand their way of thinking, to learn valuable lessons, as well as how they achieved their goals. The most interesting and instructive are the biographies of Leonardo da Vinci, Henry Ford, Nikola Tesla, etc. The development of intelligence is not as obvious and tangible as the development of muscle mass. However, after physiological development, mental development should follow. Only in this way will a person be a harmoniously developing personality. Remember that after graduation, the possibility of further development of intelligence is completely in your hands. Don't miss this opportunity. The makings of intellectuality are given to us at birth, the habit of using mental abilities is instilled by parents and teachers, and the desire to develop intelligence depends on each individual. Is it possible to develop intelligence? The human brain is a complex system of nerve cells, neurons. Information from one neuron to another is transmitted through chemical transmitters, neurotransmitters, in particular, endorphins, dopamine, etc. There is an erroneous statement that only a small part of it is involved in the work of the human brain. In fact, the brain of everyone always works completely, but this does not mean that the limit has been reached and the brain cannot be developed. In a person engaged in self-development, new neurons and new connections between them are formed. This will be the development of intelligence. Modern science says that the thinking abilities of a person are 50% dependent on a genetic factor, that is, half of the intelligence potential is laid down by parents. This is a type of character, a set of neurons, neurotransmitters. At the age of 5, the child has already formed a set of neurons and connections between them, most of which will remain with him for life. And then much depends on how his parents will develop him, and when he grows up, and he himself. The goal of many people who want to become successful is to realize their abilities and potential as fully as possible. And the right way to achieve this goal is not to stop working on increasing your intelligence. Someone who will actively work on the development of his thinking abilities, in a year will be able to radically change himself intellectually. So how do you get your brain to work at full throttle? After all, in our world, where competition reigns, it is not the strongest who wins, but the smartest, enterprising, and resourceful. Boosting your mental abilities is not a problem, there would be desire and patience. Of course, we are unlikely to become the second Einstein, Tesla, Edison, or Elon Musk, these are exceptional nuggets. But, engaged in self-development, we will make sure that our brain has such capabilities that we did not even suspect. Of course, many people would like to become a genius easily and quickly, without spending much effort. Now there are many books on the development of thinking abilities, for example, Stanislav Miller. Become a Genius. Secrets of Superthinking from the series A Psychologist for Yourself, but most people are too lazy to even read them. For them, the way out would be a magic pill like the one that by chance went to the main character of the American film Areas of Darkness, 2011, with Bradley Cooper in the title role. Thanks to this pill, the brain of a loser writer from New York begins to work with incredible power, and the depressed hero turns into a brilliant stock exchange player with great prospects. But without the pill, he's nobody. In addition, it turned out that wonderful pills that improve brain function have a serious side effect. Although the hero finds a way out of the difficult situation in which he fell, it is better for us to be guided by common sense and engage in exercises for the development of intelligence. In order for the brain to work, it must be loaded, but the exercises must be interesting, not monotonous. Otherwise, we will subconsciously avoid them by engaging in procrastination. And exercises will only give a result when they become a habit. What is IQ? In 1912, the German psychologist Wilhelm Stern introduced the concept of intelligence quotient, IQ. It is determined with the help of various tests with tasks of increasing complexity. The average value is 100. A value of 70 qualifies as mental retardation. Intelligence does not mean the amount of knowledge accumulated by a person, but his ability to memorize and analyze new information, as well as be able to use it to solve subsequent problems. American Andrea Kuwahusky is a consultant physician and specialist in the field of behavioral therapy. She works with children with autism who have impaired cognitive abilities. One of her first patients was a boy with mental retardation. His IQ indicated minor mental retardation. After 3 years of teaching reading, mathematics, game skills, communication according to the methodology developed by her, his IQ was 100. Similar advances in intelligence development were observed in other children with cognitive impairments with whom classes were held. Therefore, if children with learning disabilities can develop rapidly, then the average person who does not have such problems, as they say, and cards in his hands. Andrea Kuwahusky drew the following conclusions: intelligence is trainable, the more you train it, the better the result will be, to develop intelligence within the power of everyone, regardless of the level of his initial abilities. We develop mental abilities. 1. Looking for innovations. All geniuses are usually polymaths, people with great knowledge in many areas of life. For example, Leonardo da Vinci was not only a talented artist, but also a writer, musician, scientist, and inventor. People who seek to develop their intellect should be open to everything new, knowledge, activities, events. After all, each new activity contributes to the formation of new connections, synapses that connect one neuron with the rest and through which they exchange impulses. The production of dopamine, a neurotransmitter hormone that stimulates the formation of new neurons and helps to increase motivation, also directly depends on the innovations that trigger this process. Anyone who wants to have a high intelligence quotient should not believe that after graduating from a university, you can forget about studying forever, because this is a direct path to degradation. Therefore, we do not stop looking for new food for the mind, we learn new sciences, new languages, sign up for courses, for example, painting, playing the guitar, Latin American dances, practicing a new sport, going on a trip for new impressions. The value for the development of thinking abilities is not so much the knowledge itself, but the learning process itself. Too challenging ourselves. Much has been said about the benefits of educational games for the brain, training memory and concentration, poker, preference, chess, backgammon games, computer games like Tetris, Sudoku. True, psychologists involved in the development of intelligence advise, having achieved mastery in one game, to move on to the next. After all, the brain, having understood how to play, for example, Sudoku, begins to be lazy, while new synaptic connections are no longer formed so actively. In order for the brain to be loaded and continue to work hard, you need to constantly keep it in a state of some difficulty. 3. Learning to think creatively. 3.1 We develop creative thinking. The ability to create original ideas and think outside the box. For example, we take a certain task and find from 10 to 20 ways to solve it, especially without limiting your imagination. So we were caught outside in heavy rain, no umbrella, far from home, and rain, most likely, for a long time. We are in a hurry to an important meeting, and our heel suddenly breaks, the wallet with money and credit cards disappeared, and we were in a foreign city. We were invited to a party where we don't know anyone except the lady of the house, who was urgently called to work. 3.2 After watching a movie, we come up with its own name. 3.3 Open any book and write out 10 words from it, taken at random. And now let's try to find a connection between them and make a short story of 10 sentences from them. 3.4 We imagine ourselves as an architect, before whom the customer set the task to design a house. The house is not simple, the project should reflect 10 words invented by the customer: fish, walnut, brick, cat, water, etc. We fantasize and draw a brick house, next to it is a walnut tree on which a cat sits and looks at the fish floating in the pond, etc. 3.5 Choose any object you like in the room and select 5 adjectives that most correspond to it. For example, orange, juicy, Spanish, orange, delicious, sweet. And 5 adjectives that are least suitable for him: feline, sharp, scarf, herbal, cloudy. 3.6 On a sheet of paper we draw 20 crosses and on the basis of each of them we depict an object that tells us our imagination, for example, a mill, a pan, a dragonfly, a chessboard. Instead of crosses as a blank for future pictures, you can draw circles or 2 perpendicular lines. For not looking for easy ways. Progress makes it easier for us to do many things, but our brain, devoid of loads, relaxes at the same time. Take, for example, a calculator, thanks to which we have successfully forgotten how to perform even the simplest arithmetic operations in the mind or on paper. Or GPS, which helps to navigate the terrain. Those who are accustomed to it eventually find that they are no longer able to do without it, so they have lost their own sense of orientation. Translator programs have also been created to help us, which at the same time worsen our knowledge of languages, since they deprive the brain of the opportunity to practice in them. Technology simplifies life, but at the same time cognitive abilities suffer, because the brain needs training. Of course, you do not need to give up the benefits of civilization and the products of modern technology, but sometimes it is worth giving work to the brain to keep it in good shape. 5. Communicate online. Social networks like Twitter, Google and others provide an opportunity to communicate with a large number of new people. A different environment, new knowledge and ideas open up new opportunities and allow you to look at your own problems from a different point of view, to find new ways to solve them. In the process of developing intelligence, the role of collective intelligence is undoubted. Factors affecting the development of the mind. When we develop the intelligence of an adult, it is necessary to select exercises, methods of increasing an intellectual improvement, developing memory and attention, taking into account the characteristics of growing up and those factors that throughout life affect the formation of the brain. 3. Each person is different, and the conditions of life make the differences more noticeable. Therefore, before engaging in self-development, strengthening the mind, it is recommended to consult with a specialist who will select the most effective methods depending on individual characteristics. Factors affecting the development of thinking. Genetic factor. Initial abilities are transmitted from parents or close relatives. Features of intrauterine development. It is extremely important for women to lead a healthy lifestyle during pregnancy in order to prevent problems in the formation of the brain. The constant negative impact of the environment greatly affects at a young age. Polluted air is a way of intoxication of brain tissue and their delayed development. Family. The first skills for the development of the mind are laid by the family. If children are not engaged from the first days, then soon the lag will begin. Education. An important role is played not only by the level of education received by the person himself, but also by how developed his environment is. After all, it is a circumstance in which either motivation is formed or there is no motivation to constantly improve cognitive 3. Abilities. Nutrition. The brain is an organ that consumes a lot of energy and nutrients for full development, so it requires constant nutrition. A person vitally needs good nutrition, and sometimes taking vitamin complexes. We recommend you to undergo a consultation. Every intelligent person knows that even developed intelligence requires constant improvement, and training, so it excludes from life the factors that negatively affect the work of the brain, and includes in it what develops and increases intelligence. Classes on the development of intelligence. There are many exercises and books on the development of children's thinking, however, adults also need to maintain their mind in working order. For them, methods for the development of intellectual abilities are being developed, including classes to increase the level of intelligence and special training for the development of human thinking. The most effective classes are logical tasks. The ability to think logically, compare facts and build theories is necessary in life. Therefore, solving logical problems from special collections will be an excellent training for the cerebral cortex. Mathematical examples. Solving the simplest everyday tasks, for example, determining the full cost of a grocery basket, without a calculator, only in the mind or with a pen and a piece of paper is an excellent workout for the brain. Additionally, you can buy a collection of mathematical problems with a catch to train not only in counting, but also in attentiveness. Compositions. Write on any topic. It is better to choose the question that worries you. Such an exercise helps to dress thoughts and feelings in words, develops the ability to logically and consistently express thoughts, to find arguments to confirm their words. At the same time, fine motor skills develop. Tasks for attention and hard work. Finding differences in pictures or assembling a puzzle of several thousand pieces is not as easy a task as it seems at first. However, such exercises allow you to concentrate, work with the smallest details and analyze visual information, making you attentive. Meditation exercises. Modern doctors and scientists answer the question of whether it is possible for an adult to develop his intelligence and erudition to the maximum, quickly increase mental abilities, memory and attention levels, and tell how to make the mind mobile, in special articles. We specifically process the most effective methods into simple exercises that everyone is able to perform. Simple ways to discreetly improve your mind. Often, adults, after graduating from university, after a few years notice that memory and mental acuity gradually decrease. At the same time, there is no large amount of free time for purposeful training. And at this moment they wonder how they can raise their level of intelligence, developmentally and morally every day in order to pump up thinking abilities, knowledge, and thinking, to force themselves not to lose their mind. In recent decades, a similar question has been asked by researchers studying the features of the brain. Classes of up to 40 minutes a day were found and at the same time fruitfully affecting the brain, allowing you to maintain and develop the level of cognitive abilities. Brain research. Is it possible to increase the level of intelligence, increase your vocabulary, deepen your knowledge, increase the brain performance coefficient of a girl or a boy, and how to do it, is described in 5 simple ways. Read it. 1 educational material a day will already be food for thought and will keep the mind in working order. And whether a non-fiction book read at night or a good fiction book will not only develop vocabulary, but also make you think about complex problems. Learn new things. The language of a favorite country or an unusual hobby will allow you to daily load neural connections with the necessary information, maintain their activity. Train your memory by memorizing poems, prose texts, rows of numbers. This is a training that allows you to avoid age-related degradation of brain cells for a long time. Study deeper. It is important not only to learn new data about various things, but also to deepen knowledge in a certain area. Choose such a direction and set a goal to become an expert in it. This usually applies to professional activities. The deeper you dive into it, the more information your brain will have to comprehend and systematize. Expand your horizons. The more new things catch your eye, the better. Find a new way to work, meet, or regularly watch documentary and educational videos about interesting things. By pushing the boundaries of knowledge about the world, you provoke the brain to analyze unusual information. To achieve the best result, combine tips, periodically change the types of activities. More attention should be paid to activities that give the best result or are aimed at the weakest sphere of a person. Try all the ways and understand how you like to train your mind more, increase memory and increase the level of knowledge. The human body is a complex system in which the constituent elements affect each other. Therefore, special attention should be paid to phenomena that are not directly related to brain training and at the same time affect the work of the brain. For the general development of intelligence, it is necessary. Exercise regularly. Make a menu taking into account the necessary vitamins and trace elements. Regularly undergo health examinations. Observe the sleep schedule. Try to avoid severe stress. Give up cigarettes and alcohol. How to increase intelligence, 10. Ways to work. Some tips on how to become smarter, and at the same time improve health, prevent age-related changes in the psyche and make your life more interesting. It is impossible to become smarter in an instant. Being smart is a way of life, constantly finding and overcoming yourself. This is a rather difficult, but at the same time pleasant path. And you can choose how to start it. 1. Exercise regularly. It improves blood flow and oxygenates the brain, and good physical condition contributes to good mental health. Choose a program that is comfortable for your age and physical abilities. The main thing here is regularity. 2. Make sure you sleep enough. Numerous studies have shown that lack of sleep reduces concentration, short-term and long-term memory, speed of problem solving, visual and hearing acuity, slows down the reaction. Especially for maintaining good mental health, the right combination of deep and REM sleep is important. Here again you will be helped by physical exercises and a guide to sleep from Life Hacker. 3. Eat a healthy, balanced diet. Your brain needs a certain amount of nutrients to work optimally. Diversify your usual menu to get enough vitamins, amino acids, and carbohydrates. To do this, it is not necessary to buy food additives. Earlier we wrote about food for the mind. 4. If you smoke, stop. Toxins contained in cigarette smoke impair brain function and can cause long-term cognitive decline. Quitting smoking is something you will never regret. 5. Reduce alcohol consumption. Alcohol in small amounts, especially when combined with communication, may be beneficial for some brain functions. But excessive use can lead to acute and chronic disorders of its activity and cause irreversible cognitive disorders. 6. Regularly learn new things. Learn something new, such as foreign languages, playing musical instruments. Learn something you've wanted to try for a long time. This contributes to the plasticity and flexibility of the brain. Learning math is an excellent training of logic and abstract thinking, and also improves concentration, mental endurance, and is guaranteed to raise your IQ by several points. Use online services to learn something new. 7. Maintain friendships with smart and educated people. Make meetings with them regular and discuss a wide range of issues. Complex intellectual discussions will give you new ideas and perspectives. You will understand how smart people think and express themselves and what may be worth changing about yourself. If you're the smartest person in a room, then you're not in the room you're supposed to be. 8. Read at least one serious book a week and diversify your reading. This will improve vocabulary and verbal intelligence, as well as enhance your knowledge and conversational repertoire. Reading should be daily. 9. Play challenging PC games. Shooters and races at best develop reaction speed, but do not give you mental stimulation. Choose a game that includes complex rules, strategy, and requires certain mental skills. These are, for example, the puzzle games Braid and Portal. In online multiplayer games, EVE Online has the highest entry threshold. 10. Give up limiting ideas about your own intelligence. Many truly qualified people tend to underestimate their abilities and suffer from a lack of self-confidence. Often, the opinion of parents who are overly critical, or even incompetent, teachers means more than the stubborn facts of your success. Believe in yourself and start living a full life. In the age of high technology, human mental abilities are the basic foundation for life success. The ability to quickly memorize and reproduce information, erudition, competence, all these signs belong to the concept of intelligence. Let's see what is meant by this term, and also learn how to develop intelligence. The essence of the concept intelligence is defined as a stable set of human thinking abilities that allow him to adapt to the environment, learn and change it. It is impossible to equate this concept with cognitive, mental abilities. They are only a working tool of the intellect. The most detailed model for this term was proposed by the American psychologist Joy Paul Guilford. In his opinion, intelligence includes 120 factors. All of them can be classified according to 3 indicators: content, mental work of a person, operations, method of information processing, result. The development of intelligence is possible if you work on all these points. However, in ordinary life, a person may have many ideas that he analyzes in every possible way, but cannot implement in life. He just doesn't have the skill to do it. It is very important to know how to improve your intellectual level in all areas. But more on that later. Exercise for the mind. Let us consider in more detail how to develop intelligence with the help of special actions. Before moving on to specific examples, it should be noted that the development of intelligence is impossible without the ability to fully rest. The human brain must be active, process a large amount of information. This is impossible without a good night's sleep. Normally, 8 hours are enough for a person, but it all depends on individual characteristics. The main thing is that the individual feels rested and full of vital energy to improve his intellect and develop creativity. In addition, active recreation is also important. For this, hiking, running, cycling, swimming are ideal. At the same time, the head has the opportunity to temporarily disconnect from solving global problems. And now let's move directly to the exercises and ways to develop intelligence. Board games. This is the most famous and ancient way to improve the mental abilities of a person. Playing chess, checkers, and backgammon allows you to develop intuition, uses intelligence and creativity. Thinking, memory, will, emotions are actively working here. The player logically plans his moves, tries to predict the enemy's response. In addition to well-known games, they will increase intelligence and psychological board actions. These include the games Mafia, Evolution, Dixit and others. In such games, not only knowledge is important, but to a greater extent communicative competence in order to convey your point of view to others, to feel the players. Puzzle. The name itself suggests that the brain will have to work. Puzzles include a Rubik's Cube, puzzles, solving crosswords and scan words, mathematical and other riddles. Thanks to this, you can competently organize intellectual leisure for both adults and children. After all, it is very important to introduce the child to mental operations from childhood. When solving puzzles, work and fine motor skills are included, thanks to which the ratio of visual analysis, thought and action develops. Art. Here the relationship between intelligence and visual creativity is most clearly traced. While a person is engaged in creativity, the brain is actively working and can find solutions for very important tasks. This is also called insight or insight. When drawing and sculpting, the individual falls into a slight trance state, renounces the ordinary. This helps to use unconscious impulses that are responsible for brilliant ideas. The ability to draw and sculpt in this sense is irrelevant. The main thing is to surrender to the creative process. You can just draw spots and lines, color the picture under a pleasant melody. Template break. A person whose life is subject to a clear schedule often acts by inertia. Work and existence on the machine do not allow the individual to even think about how to increase intelligence, and whether it is necessary to do it at all. Unfortunately, most people live this way. It is important to find the strength to break this vicious circle. You usually need to start small. For example, change the route to work. In the evening, take an hour walk in the park. On the weekends, do things you haven't done before. Instead of household chores, go to an orphanage or a neighboring city. Breaking the pattern allows you to look at the world in a different way, actualizes mental activity. This article gives only some ways to increase intelligence. In this process, the most important thing is to understand how life will change when the intellectual level becomes higher. What then will happen to the inner world, the family, how will prosperity and relationships with others change? If the picture is positive, then this is the right way of development. The relationship of intelligence to mental processes. The human psyche is a complex structure, so all processes in it are interconnected and interdependent. In particular, intelligence is more influenced by the following internal realities. Thought. Some scientists even considered these concepts synonymous. But this is fundamentally wrong. Thinking is the process of cognition and processing of information, and intelligence is the ability to competently apply knowledge at the right time. Without mental operations, a person's intellectual level would be very low. Will. Volitional efforts are needed precisely in order to master new material, study important books, bring thoughts to the final result. Memory. The ability to store and reproduce information is an integral part of the intellect. Attention. Intelligent people are distinguished by an attentive attitude to the world around them. They are able to notice the smallest details, analyze and study them. The development of intelligence is closely related to the improvement of human attention. Creativity. About this sweet couple, intelligence and creativity, wrote Guilford. This term refers to the ability of a person to think creatively, that is, non-standard, to synthesize original ideas. Key intelligence indicators. Psychologists have identified 4 key characteristics of intelligence. The depth of the mind is the ability to get to the bottom of phenomena and events. Inquisitiveness, curiosity, the desire to learn new things. Flexibility and mobility, the ability to act outside the box, bypass barriers, overcome difficulties. Consistency, the ability to justify your point of view, competently present the material. Some authors also consider creativity to be part of intelligence. However, this is not quite the right approach, because it is included in the structure of creativity. A person can be very creative, but not intellectually gifted. Erudition and intelligence. The development of intelligence is closely related to such a concept as erudition. Let's see what it is. Erudition is a set of deep knowledge in any field of science or life. Polymaths have an inquisitive mind, always looking for new information on the topic of interest to them. An intellectual person does not stop at one sphere, he develops in all sorts of directions. The line between these concepts is rather shaky. A polymath can also be interested in several areas at once, but, for example, in communication to be a profane. It is important to learn the following: in order to increase your intellectual level, you need to strive to become an erudite person in any field. How to increase erudition for an ordinary person? The best way is to read thematic books. And it is the quality of reading that is extremely important. It should be thoughtful, meaningful. A person should write out or mark liked or controversial phrases, questions, look for an answer to them. Intelligence is a very important human quality responsible for thinking, imagination, representation, memory, perception, and sensations. Thanks to intelligence, we are able to learn, assimilate, and analyze information, adapt to new situations and overcome difficulties. It is possible and necessary to develop intelligence, but it is necessary to understand the principles by which this happens, how our brain processes information and what should be given special attention. There is a popular opinion that you can increase the level of intelligence by doing mathematics or, for example, learning foreign languages. But there is no single way and solution here. Each person can develop intelligence in his own way, depending on his interests and abilities. Medical supplements. Special drugs, which are presented in the form of food additives, have a serious impact on the quality of brain activity. In search of an answer to the question of how to improve your intelligence, you need to think about purchasing the following tools. Piracetam, Neutropile, Lucidum. Strengthens memory, increases the quality of brain activity. Omega-3 acids. Prevent brain aging, help increase concentration. Creatine. Improves memory, increases stress resistance. L-tyrosine. Provides the brain with oxygen, improves mood and attentiveness. The most popular drugs: brain booster. Amino, gotu-kola, active lecithin. Their reception will have a positive effect only when combined with exercises and the right lifestyle. Folk remedies. You can become smart with the help of folk remedies, implying the use of useful herbs. The following plants increase brain activity. Ginseng root. Brahmi, ginkgo biloba, sage. They are used in the form of decoctions or tinctures. The main effect of all herbs is to strengthen memory and enhance brain activity. Before using medications or folk remedies, it is recommended to consult a doctor to exclude possible risks associated with side effects or contraindications. Findings. There are a large number of ways to increase the level of intelligence. All of them are easy to use and give a noticeable result in a few weeks. However, it is very important to combine them, since only an integrated approach will allow you to achieve real development of the mind.